I am thinking of doing a Meta Given children's book, and in doing so, I did an AI depiction of her life on the farm or reality. So I asked AI for a red-headed girl near a stream riding a horse with a three-room homesteader's cabin. I like the black and white one better, as you can see. This is another AI picture. It was a depiction in 1897 of Meta Given as a young girl making dinner for her dad, farm hands, and with a little bit of help from her sister while mom is away. I didn't really care for this device. It kind of reminded me of a fondue pot, and I don't really recall ever seeing one like that. Young Meta Hortense Given. This is another 2025 AI depiction of her. This time I asked for black and white. In 1897, as I told you, she made her first fried turkey dinner. As it turned out, at the age of 9 in 1898, she is concocting recipes at 10. Now, in 1902, she is teaching grammar school with her newly earned certificate at the age of 14. This is the only known cookbook that Meta Given ever used, and as I know, is one of the first. It's called the Journal of Agriculture. They used to send out a journal, and to their customers, they would give them a cookbook. This particular one offers competitive cash prizes for receipt books. Now, receipts were personal handwritten recipes passed down through the family or friends. I also separated the word cookbook as that was the format for a long time ago. Meta Given's cookbooks were spelled that way in 47, or actually 42 to 1972. This is a little bit of genealogy about Meta Given's family. As you can see, Samuel Caleb Givens II came to Virginia. He immigrated from Antrim, Northern Ireland, and that tells me that they were Protestants and that they may have been a family of land grabbers, and the king may have rewarded them by making him one of 3 magistrates in Virginia, one of the largest counties at the time. Then there's John. He actually immigrates, but he fights in the Revolutionary War. There's William, 1 and 2, and Henry, her great-grandfather, migrated from Virginia to Missouri, and all of these people migrated, so there were at least 2 to 3 generations, because there were other family members and of course their wives. And James was born in 1858, which is the year that they arrived. So I would say she was quite pregnant, or may not have known she was pregnant before they left, depending on how they traveled from Virginia to Missouri. Meta Given was then born in Beauvoir Township, as was her sister, and they lived in Vienna, Flatiron, Bland, Missouri, as some places, and they also lived in Chicago, Illinois, and in Lakeland and Sarasota, Florida. Note, her family lives in Virginia until 1858, which is the time of the Civil War, and they probably moved because they could see the writing on the wall. This is a little page out of history that tells about Samuel Caleb Givens and his family, and it gives you dates of birth, death, who they married, when they married them. Sometimes it tells you where. This John Givens was a commander, a company of Augusta County, Virginia militia, and he was born in County Antrim, Ireland, and he died in Augusta County, Virginia. Note, there were of Northern Irish descent, so that gives us that history as well. In 1827, this particular certificate claims that they were married in West Virginia, which is impossible because West Virginia did not exist in 1827. So the person who did this is a little bit off, and we should note that when we're doing genealogy. Farm knowledge and experience in the 1800s. Look at this fine woman working on doing the laundry. She's hanging it up. She's lucky enough to have a line. It could even be the line that they keep the animals in, so it could actually look over the pasture. So farm chores were a lot of carrying water. Women did most of the carrying of water. Sunday prepped for laundry day, because laundry day was Monday, and it might even be longer than that if you didn't have any soap and you had to make it out of lye. There was, of course, child care. They had to be taken care of, and as you had children, the older would take care of the younger, and so on. I would say Meta, at 2, was taking care of her baby sister. They were preparing 3 meals a day, every day, and they were usually hearty meals. Small animal care. They took care of maybe the milking cow, a pig, maybe, and chickens. So it's hard to tell depending on what other animals they may have had. There was gardening, lots of gardening. Women had gardens, had by the house always, so that they could go out and get food. Spinning wool, after they sheared a sheep, possibly. They knew how to sew and knit, and the cloth items. My mother tells a story about my great-grandparents where one would start the piece, generally my great-grandmother, and my great-grandfather would sit in her chair while dinner was being made and continue to work on the piece. There was cleaning, lots and lots of cleaning, education and fun. Fun. We will talk about education, but the fun. They had lots of fun. So Meta Given tells of a time when her mother had finished a rag rug and they put it down for the winter. First they laid down straw, then they put down the rug, and Meta and her sister got to tumble all over the rug. I think that constitutes as fun. Education, this is the next piece. From 1888 to 1894, homeschooled, farm life, cooking, cleaning, gardening, tending small animals, child care, what have you. Also, don't forget about harvest. From 1902 to 1907-ish, she goes to St. James High School, and another prior to attending St. James. She was only there for 2 years. 1908 to 1912 approximately, she goes to Warrensburg Normal School number 2, now known as the University of Central Missouri. She does 1914 to 1927 approximately, the University of Chicago, bachelor's in home economics. She also attends University of Missouri and Wisconsin, as stated in her transcript. Meta Given, higher education. State Normal School number 2 in 1912, she graduates out of Warrensburg, Missouri. And there's a picture of the time when she was there. This is the only building that is left, and there was a flower pot out front, which has been moved over by where the church is, which I believe is down in this area now. And this is also the University of Chicago around the time that Meta Given was going there to school. Lucky to have those pictures, as Warrensburg Normal School number 2 burned in 1915, and this is the only building that's left. Did I already say that? Okay, let's talk about normal school educations. Started in Massachusetts in the 1830s, they were brought over from Europe. They were the Normal School number 2, Warrensburg, started in 1871. Took about 40 years, but they did move across the country, and before they were done, it was like wildfire because they were everywhere, in every state in the Union. Single most important thing for the nation, and especially women. Anybody who gets an education should be exceedingly proud of themselves. If you complete 12 years of education, you will be proud of yourself because you did it. And somebody said to me, oh, well, I'm not paid to get an education. Oh, yes, you are. Parents, we pay. We pay for the clothing that you wear. We pay for the education you get outside of home as well as in here, these four walls. We pay for your transportation to and from those places. So don't think you're not paid. And what about food? Wouldn't you like to know that your food is being paid for? And they are trying to give you the most nutritious food possible. Just make sure it's the most economical, and we'll talk about that later. These normal schools morphed into teacher schools, universities, and colleges across the nation. 77% of the students to attend normal schools were women. Women dominated normal schools. They should have been dominating the teaching profession as well as principalship, but for whatever reason, they seldom were promoted. However, I do know of an exception, and we will talk about her later. 1800s to the mid-1900s, women were not allowed to be married. They would lose their jobs many times to a man. There are some exceptions out there. You go out and find out who they are. Women were fired from their jobs if they married until the 1940s, and now we are here to stay. This is a picture of 1918, University of Chicago, home economics class. Now, I don't believe Meta Given is in here. I have not investigated this picture. I will go to the University of Chicago someday and do my own investigation. Maybe that'll be the first stop on my next trip. Teaching career from the age of 14 to 34 years old. That's 1902 to 1922 to you. She started out at Oak Forest School. She teaches at Brookfield Normal School, teaches college in Warrensburg. 1909-ish, she's at St. James High School teaching high school chemistry, science, agriculture subjects. She created her own curriculum for home economics. She is asked by the superintendent of schools to move with him to Flat River Junior College. And she does so, brings her curriculum. They build a brand new home economics building, and she is the director, the first director, not just a teacher, because we know she's teaching also. Many people did dual roles. Principals taught, directors of home economics taught. Now we're going to talk about Meta Given's career. This is where she lived and breathed for many years, and we will talk about that. Let's go to 1925. What is she doing in 1925? Well, actually, we're going to go a little bit before. This is 1924 to 1925 articles about Meta Given. Move forward. 1924, she is promoting newspaper articles about fudge and the emergency pantry. She gets noticed, I would say, I don't know if by these articles, which I believe are part of her graduate work at college, because she's doing it in 1925 as well. This is a co-ed, gets a kick in fudge, and Meta Given in 1925 is working with fudge making at the University of Chicago. In 1925, she is tapped on the shoulder to be the first director of home economics for the Evaporated Milk Association. They are conducting research. They are researching whether evaporated milk is good for babies. They think it's better than regular milk. They're doing education work, and these send out pamphlets, one in which Meta Given does have a copyright and her name on. There is at least one more that I know of. She is a pioneer of food photography. Just about any food photography you see, starting in the 1925 forward, would probably be Meta Given if she worked with that newspaper, journal, company, whatever, because she's the lady. All the virtues of canned milk. She's also a member of the American Home Economics Association, in which she mentors other people to go into home economics. She helps them get the right courses, go to the right school, and get jobs. She is a mentor for many. This is a Duke University that holds pamphlets and booklets of the Evaporated Milk Association from 24 to 34. As you can see down here, this is one that mentions Meta Given's name and talks about them getting a fine Beauchamp microscope that Meta Given can use to shoot. She could really look at the molecules of canned milk as opposed to regular milk. And these are just some of the articles, and I would say just about anything from 1925 on would probably have Meta Given's stamp somewhere there, but not necessarily her name. This is a 1929 Meta Given Director of Home Economics Research Department advertisement and picture of her and Melissa Atkins, Director of Demonstrations. So Meta Given is doing all the work in the laboratory. I bet Melissa comes in, watches things, learns how things are done, and then she goes out and gives demonstrations to things like 4-H, fairs, county fairs, state fairs. There's all kinds of fairs going on around the country. It is a wonderful place to get out and see another state. The Evaporated Milk Association, you can see she actually gets a copyright on one of the Evaporated Milk Association's thing, which is called Eating for Efficiency. She is all about efficiency, and we'll learn about that later. She pioneered food photography, no credit, innovator of most evaporated milk recipes, including ice cream, wrote most of the 1925 to 1930 articles about evaporated milk. 1927, she stopped going to college for graduate work because it became elusive with work. Built a team of friends and colleagues who would help her career flourish. Fired because of the Depression, so they said. I happen to think that maybe she might have been a difficult woman. We are at 1930 to 31. Meta Given is the food editor of the Chicago Tribune Food Talk and Tribune Cookbook. As you can see, she is using her own byline. This is a Tribune cookbook article, and as you can see, her name is written all over it. I found this newspaper, which was published June 2, 1930, when she first started the job. All the interesting chemical reactions and physical changes do not happen in test tubes and flasks. Fascinating and important ones take place in saucepans. Expression of one's artistic bent includes music, sculpture, designing, and cooking. The making of an attractive salad or a tender, crisp pie crust requires talent and technique. The only difference is the end product. And I will have to agree with this 100%. Victory gardens. Oh, I cannot express to you how important victory gardens were. And you know what? We could start instituting victory gardens in every plot of land. From all the way up to the tippy toe of Fort Kent, Maine, all the way over to San Diego, California, and everywhere in between, up and down, from coast to coast, from border to border. These victory gardens during World War I and World War II were really, really important. They allowed people to eat fresh fruits and vegetables right out of their very own garden. I myself have 2 fruit trees and a garden. We could institute them so that everybody had their own. Also, they helped us keep the food in this country so that the food could be exported to foreign countries such as Europe, maybe Japan. These countries were being decimated, and we were there, and we were actually there to help. And so every person in this world owes their allegiance and their trust in the United States of America. We saved your asses. We would all be speaking Hitler's German. And I'm telling you, it was not pretty. So let's get out there and do victory gardens. Let's work on getting more and more farms out there. Turn old properties into farming properties. There's all kinds of neat things that can be done. Meta Given was an entrepreneur. Say that again? An entrepreneur from 1932 to 72. Oh, get out of here. There's no way she could have. Okay, let's just look at some of the stuff she did. This is one of the initial projects Meta undertook as an entrepreneur between 1932 and 39, focusing on editing and enhancing this particular cookbook. It is called The Art of Modern Cooking and Better Meals. I'll be sending this over to the University of Warrensburg, as I believe, actually the University of Central Missouri, Warrensburg, because I believe that they will be keeping the collection that I have of Meta Given's artifacts. 1936, Meta Given lends her name and image to Fairbanks and Morris, and they make refrigerators. They make electric refrigerators, and not only that, but they have an extra door. They call it the conservador. Look at it. You can see it. Look at that close-up. It is so cool. So you could keep the things that you need to keep on the front door. Oh, yeah, that's what we do now, is we keep it on the front door. And that picture, that's the one I used for the 2016 graphic artist picture. So, Meta Given scientific testing of conservador refrigerator. 1938, she lent her image to scientific results. She worked for Fairbanks Morris Refrigerator Company. She repeated and thoroughly tested in her kitchens. Entrepreneur of Meta Given Scientific Kitchens, 1933 to about 1950. Testing this and other products. Ran contests for Quaker Oats. This picture used as my model for the 2016 sketch. Potential packing companies. I just added this, and I said from the 1930s to the 1950s. There's Armour and Company, Swift and Company, Wilson, Carre Packing, George Hormel, North Packing and Provision Company, Joseph Shealy Company, and Harrison Fisher. Not to forget Quaker Oats, Kellogg's, and a whole bunch of other companies, including all kinds of meat and poultry type packing companies. Meta Given on changing careers. Now we know that she taught school from 1902 to 22, that she was the first director of the Evaporated Milk Association, that she was the first columnist of the Chicago Tribune to use her own name while writing Tribune Cookbook. After the famed Jane Eddington, Caroline Shaw Maddox, who was the first author, I should have put that one in parentheses. Meta Given did it after she retired from 30 to 31. Again, she is let go. I'm thinking she's difficult. They're saying for the economy. Actually, the economy didn't really hit until about 1933 when that pandemic, when that situation occurred. As an entrepreneur, she's from about 1930 to 1950. She's consulting for major packing companies, syndicated newspaper column. I know some people are like, you should make that the first piece. Column with 60 million readers. How about 2 major cookbooks, 4 million copies? Fed a nation economically, and oh, by the way, those cookbooks are still out there selling, those old cookbooks. Picture used as 2016 cover. I guess I just like repeating that. Okay, this is her first cookbook. It is thick. It is 1,000 pages long. It is produced by 1942. She is 54 years old. The Modern Family Cookbook by Meta Given. These are some of the covers. I believe she took these pictures, and I am giving her credit, as they are actual pictures and not drawings, which a lot of companies still used drawings. This is her second major cookbook. It is 2,000 pages long, so she puts it initially in 2 separate volumes. It publishes from 47 to 72. It is the Modern Encyclopedia of Cooking. Volumes 1 and 2 are shown here, and by 1950s, 3, this one I like the best, is in 1 volume, and it's about 2,000 pages and the finest, sweetest paper you ever felt. Beautiful books. This is an article that is posted in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch in 1941 that gives us some flavor of the stories of Meta Given. And as you can see, another very lovely picture of Meta. 1941, Meta Given bio. Again, I just happened to find this particular article out here just as I was going through Warrensburg, and I realized that now the Warrensburg Star Journal is out there, and I can't wait to get out and find all of the articles about Meta Given and Carrie Given. Cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. I'd have baked a cake. Ha! This song was sung by Eileen Barton. I have a feeling that Meta Given might have known this song, as she puts it in the beginning paragraph in her 1953 15th edition cookbook. I'm not sure which other ones it's in, but it is in that one. There's a kid in the candy store who's feeding a nation economically. This is a quote from Meta Given. It's a 1943. Ration points must have careful study if family budget is to be maintained. Many times as a child, I stood in front of the dusty showcase in our little neighborhood store with pennies in hand. Should I buy the jawbreakers or the jelly beans or those long, chewy sticks wrapped in wax paper? You get more of the sticks than anything else, but the jelly beans tasted better. I feel exactly the same when I stand in front of the half-empty shelves of canned goods. How shall I spend my precious points? Food on a budget was Meta Given's greatest gift that she gave to this nation during 2 major world wars. She fed the world, not just this nation. She fed the world with her careful articles, her cookbooks that were well thought out, and they were used as textbooks in colleges across the nation. What is my inspiration? Well, let's dive in and find out. My inspiration first came from Leola Marie Giroux Bishop. This is her cookbook. She was my mother. And flipping through the pages, I can see her now. Always called her book The Meta Given. Learned to make basic white bread while her first daughter learned how to walk. My sister was between the bed and the wall. My mother's sitting there reading through this cookbook, learning how to make white bread, because it's probably a 10 or 15 page read. You got to see it to believe it. Then some of our favorite recipes, of course, is that white bread, biscuits, potato salad, creamed eggs on toast. Many stories about potato salads, maybe you could ask me another time. However, the creamed eggs on toast can be summed up as, when the lights went out, out came the hurricane lamp, and out came the makings for creamed eggs and toast. It is really not the easiest thing to make, but for whatever reason, it was something my mother liked to make. And she made it for us, even if the lights didn't go out, but the hurricane lamp would. This is a page in her cookbook, and as you can see, she made her own changes and substitutions. Meta Given was all about substitution. And in 2025, I have made some edits, and I believe if you change out the gluten, flour, the milk for non-dairy, the butter for another fat, and sugar for your own sugar choice, you can come out with a pretty good product. My time with Meta Given, 2011 to the present. I started a blog about Meta Given. My mother and I mused about who Meta Given was at that time. But it was sort of like, well, you can't really be doing her bio. And I was like, well, why can't I? Authorized, unauthorized, I still can do it. Okay, but by 2013, I had paused for 2 years, and then I restarted in earnest after visiting with cousins for my godmother's funeral. You guys know who you are. Anyway, 2013 to 2018, I wrote, researched, published, wrote again, research, published, and the research never seems to end. But I did publish a book in 2018. My inspirations were Julia by Julie Ann Powell. Sadly, we lost during COVID. Another inspiration was by Mitch Albom. He did Tuesdays with Maury. He used to go to Chicago, visit with Maury, wrote the story, did the movie, and I read and watched. This is my cookbook shelf. Actually, it has changed since the making of this picture. I am sending books away to people who I believe could really use them, because I don't need 3 or 4 editions of Meta Given's Modern Encyclopedia of Cooking or Modern Family Cookbook. Now, this piece is very, very, very important. Off the internet, I got Amelia Simmons' information about her. When I was doing cookbook research in America, I discovered that she was the very first woman to write and publish a cookbook with American products like corn, flour, corn, whatever, maize, however they made it, Johnny cakes. There was all kinds of great recipes that came from those times. In 1796. Now here's the truly amazing part. You all are getting educations. You all had the opportunity to get educations. Amelia Simmons did not. She was an orphan. She looked to others to help her in some way, and they took her in and made her a domestic. She knew nothing about it, but she learned the hard way, and she wanted other people to know that she didn't want them to have to learn the way she did. And I guess she assumed they must be able to read and write because she wrote a book. Now, she is illiterate. She can neither read nor write. However, she writes this cookbook. It's a very important cookbook. It is the first. She dictates it to someone. They don't quite transcribed properly. However, the book is in print maybe 50, 70 years, and it is plagiarized. Here's a woman who needs a good copyright and a good person to make sure her book is well taken care of. Important cookbooks from 1796 to 1914. There are 75 that the Michigan State University's Feed America program believes should be. And as you can see, the first one on the list is Amelia Simmons. The second one is 1869 Catherine and Harriet Beecher. The Beecher sisters, the Stowe of Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is believed to be the first home economics book. It is the American Woman's Home Cookbook, maybe, something to that effect. I'm sorry, it doesn't have the whole name. The next person I want you to notice is in 1896, 100 years after Amelia. Fanny Farmer writes what they consider the first cookbook to use accurate measurements. A cup is a cup is a cup. However, my grandmother used a teacup. So a cup is not a cup. You need to make sure. And today, a lot of times they measure by grams or pounds, that type of thing. The next person I want you to look at is Marion Harlan. She was not only a cookbook author, she was also a fiction writer, and she wrote the book Alone, which I read and I thought was a very good book. She and her family are one of the most writing families in the nation. You should look them up. And that's pretty much it for this slide. Influences and biography articles about Meta Given over the years. The first person I want to talk about is Jane Nickerson. I think she is so important. She did an interview in 1975 of Meta Given, and this is the last known picture of Meta Given, sitting at her kitchen table working on some fruit. Jane Nickerson does an interview. They meet at a food pie or something to that bit contest that they judge. They get to know each other. She does this interview. In 1981, after Meta Given passes away, she also puts in a pleasant recollection because no other newspaper than the Lakeland Ledger puts a obituary of Meta Given, who is extremely famous from, I'm going to say, about the 1930s until the 1970s when her books go out of print. I think she was as popular as Rachel Ray, Julia Childs, any cook out there. This article, this interview, was done by the food editor of the New York Times. She was the New York Times food editor from in the 40s to the 50s. When she retired, a man took over and he said, "It's about time a man got a food editor's job." Well, he didn't really edit food. He went out to restaurants and he critiqued them. To me, that is not what a food editor is. These people are food editors. They find out about food, they find out about people who wrote about food, and they report on it. That is important. Sandy's Chatter. If without Sandy's Chatter, there would be no Jane Nickerson, there would be no Meta Given biography. She was searching for Meta Given, and then she was also filching. Now we know the rest of the story. It was quite amazing when I found these articles. And as you can see, she wrote the second article in 2015. It was really a long time before I really found any good information out there about Meta Given. I'm working on this from 2013 to 2015 with almost no leads. This was my first best newspaper lead. Sandy's Chatter. She's great. She talks all about all kinds of cookbooks, so if you are interested in that, get out there and get it, because maybe someday they'll bring down her blog. Abe of abebooks.com asked 500 customers who owned a cookbook that had been given to them by a family member to tell the story about their handing down culinary companions. Some wrote all kinds of different things about them being spattered, battered, found on kitchen shelves, treasured family heirlooms. According to research by Abe's Irma Rombecker, the Joy of Cooking cookbook most frequently handed down through the generations. The books often spanned several generations of cooks and had huge sentimental value. In 96% of the cases, a grandmother, mother, or mother-in-law had handed over the book to the next generation. The books tended to have a long history within each family. 58% of the cookbooks were more than 50 years old. 38% of the current owners said that they had owned the books for more than 30 years. Meta Given's Modern Encyclopedia cookbook came in number 8. Anyone have a hankering for raccoon, squirrel, woodchuck, or turtle? Also, there's venison and other tasty treats. This is Meta Given on the web. In 2013, I started earnestly researching her, and by 2014, someone had put out a wiki page. 1 year. That means that those algorithms that they're doing, they were able to find that I was researching her. Meta Given, there are some generosity stories out there about her and her philanthropy. This particular one was a family of 6 move into her 2-car garage. The grandfather of the person who's telling the story, not of the child, the father, finds scrap wood and buildings that are being torn down, and he creates a floor, as in the town of Chicago at the time was not happy with no floor, no wood floor. Meta brought food from the test kitchen sessions. She provided clean clothing for about 6 months to a family as she was testing soap. The father was about 8 years old, and Meta was employed a church lady in her test kitchen. She was an all-around good gal. Now, I want to talk about Carrie Given, her sister, who was the principal of Owensville High School. Let's delve in. Look what I found. At the Owensville High School in the 1923-24, she is the principal of Owensville High School. Wow, what a treasure. Carrie Given was born 2 years after Meta in 1890. She follows in Meta Given's footsteps. She goes to St. James. She goes to Warrensburg. She is the teacher. She graduates 1914 from Warrensburg Normal School. Got to get back there and do some more research. 1923 to 24, she teaches English, science, mathematics at Owensville High School. I also found a tasty little article about her helping with the play, I believe. So we'll have to get that for another presentation. 1924 to 26, we believe, or maybe 23, she's the principal at Owensville High School. 26, she marries William after Heidi from Owensville, who has a son. 26, she is let go from principal position because of marriage. I say she was outright fired. 1927, she's asked to come back after the principal leaves in a temporary position. And 1930 to 1960, she's a housewife and stepmother. I believe she also does charity work for the town. 1960s, Carrie and Meta moved to Sarasota, Florida. In November 13, 1970, Meta loses Carrie. Must have been quite a sad day in her to-be-long retirement. Sarasota Cemetery, the final resting place for the sisters, Meta and Carrie. You can find this gravestone there. You could just ask them where it is, and I believe they can kind of point you in the direction, which is what they did for me. I actually had to look around to find it. Carrie Given after Heidi. In the news, 1908, she enrolls in State Normal School, number 2, and she sells property, and as you can see, she was not married at the time, so she is under her maiden name from Bland. 1920, Carrie Given is teaching at Owensville, Missouri. You can see there. And in 1925, article about Carrie Given as the principal of Owensville High School. Now, in 2018, after I finished publishing the biography of Meta Given, I asked the New York Times if they would print a memorial for Meta Given. No response. In 2025, I asked again for the New York Times to do it again, and they would not do it. If they're really putting women back into history, they need to put all women back into history. And this woman, Meta Given, whom I wrote her biography, yes, it was long enough for a full book. Some people have asked me, because I not only put in what I knew about her life, I put in what I knew about the world around her. The first cookbook of The Americas of the United States of America by Amelia Simmons. I put in there about the first cookbook or the first home economics book written by the Beecher sisters. I put in there about Fanny Farmer. I have so much information in there, I can't do it in an hour-long talk. But I want to talk about antiquated or discarded terminology. For instance, graham flour is now whole wheat. Graham, we still have graham crackers, but it's made with whole wheat. So just to be clarified in that. Just as in homemaker can be a whole host of other terminology used, and women who work at home and then go out to look for jobs really need to beef up their resumes. They need to say, I was the project manager at my household, and these are the things that I project managed. The lives of 1, 2, 3, 4, how many ever children, of their husbands, of the cleaning of their house, of the gardening, of everything. Everything that is done, women should put down what they do. And I'm going to tell you, you'll be great at any job that you decide to go after. The location of the Kindle book on Amazon, it is out there on her birthday and death date. Let's make it a celebration date. So her death date is November 17th, 2025. It will be out there for free, the Kindle. And on her birthday, the 25th of January, 2026. So mark your calendar so you can get it free. I'm not trying to sell you a book. And this is the last little thing that I would like to leave you with. What do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody really knows, do they? Grandma Moses, Meta Given, Danette Mondou, what do these three women have in common? Well, at the age of 70 or greater, Grandma Moses starts painting. She starts painting, and look at the beautiful paintings that she does. This particular one hung for a while in the 1960s Bewitched show with Elizabeth Montgomery. This is Meta Given's invention. She lived from 88 to 1981. In 1947, she's 59 years young, and she does a 2000, not her first cookbook, but her second. And Danette Bishop Mondou, well, that's me. I was born in 1956, and in 2018, when I was 62 years old, I published My Time with Meta Given, a biography. Get out there and do something with your lives. You are never too young or too old to accomplish what you want in life. Education is all around you. All you have to do is go look for it. 2013, at the age of 53, I decided to write a biography of Meta Given. 2018, at the age of 62, the book is published by me. And another 5 years, all hardcovers are distributed. 2025, at the age of 69 years young, I go to Missouri and give talks at the University of Central Missouri, at Warrensburg and St. James and Owensville high schools. That's who I am. Oh, fini, not the end, only for now. 2025. Bye.